Hi everybody, this is Orsina Amsler, middle school art teacher at Masconomet Middle School in Boxford, Mass. And today I'm going to show you how to make Kumihimo. Now, as an art teacher, this has been a lifesaver because this is a really simple activity that your students can do if they have a little free time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, they're gonna wanna do it all the time. But what I typically do is teach kids how to make this weaving, and each class has a box with their individual weaving boards and in-progress weavings, and they can just go and grab it when they have a little free time. Everybody loves to do this. It's highly addictive, great for elementary and middle school students, and I'm going to show you how to do this very fun, cool activity that results in this awesome braid. So to start your Kumihimo, you're going to need to make a disc out of a circle of cardboard like this. And the way that we're going to do that is take a blank 6-inch cake circle, but you can trace a circle on a piece of corrugated cardboard with a bowl or another small circular object. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to mark 4 equidistant points, top, bottom, right, and left. I tell the kids north, south, east, west, just estimate the spacing. And then in between each of those 4 marks, make 4 additional marks equidistant between the each pair. So you can think about it as northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest. Now we have 8 equidistant marks. Now we're going to make 8 more marks, 1 in between each existing pair. So we are bringing the total of our marks up to 16. Now this method of breaking it down into these smaller groups is a good way of helping them to space their marks somewhat equally, a lot easier than if you just say, make 16 equidistant marks. Okay, so now that we have our marks, we're going to make a dot in the center of the disc, and then we'll take our scissors, and we are going to cut each mark into a small notch going towards that center dot. So rotate the disc as you go, cutting on each mark. These notches are the holding places for our yarn during the weaving process. You want to make sure that your notches are not too big. I tell the kids, if you cut the notches too big, you're going to have these big flappy tabs, and the structure of your disc will be compromised. So about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. I know it's a little hard to see. The last thing we want to do is make a hole in the center of our disc where the dot is. I usually put the disc on the table and use my scissors to kind of start a hole through the cardboard, and then pick it up, support the back, and twist your scissors gently until you get it all the way through. Twist the blades of the scissors. You want a nice open hole. I tell the kids it should be about as big enough that a pencil can kind of fall through and not stop. So there is your Kumihimo disc. Kumihimo always requires that you use 8 pieces of string. This one has 8 different colors, but it's the easiest when you are learning with just 2 colors. This is how I recommend you teach yourself and your students if you're trying this with a class. So I have here 8 pieces of string, 4 green, 4 yellow, and we're gonna take those 8 pieces, which are the same length, doesn't matter the length, this is about 1.5 feet. 3 feet is a good starting length for teaching. You take all 8 pieces and you make a knot like this. I don't know what you call this. I call it a pretzel knot because I show the kids as you bring the ends through, it kind of looks like a pretzel before you tighten it. However you want to convey this to your students. And there we go. This should be a short tassel because anything here will not be a part of the braid. So you want this knot to be close to the end of your string. Take your knot and insert the knot through the center of your disc. I usually have them do the markings and the cuttings on the brown side, and then have this be the surface that they're looking at while they weave. So I inserted the knot from the white side to the brown side. Separate the strings as they're coming out of the center here, and hold the knot in place if necessary. It might want to pop out. You're separating the strings into 4 pairs. Green is going to go with green at the top, each string in its own notch, and the remaining 2 greens will go at the bottom of the disc in their own respective notches. The yellows will be set up in a similar fashion. One yellow to the right with one next to it, and then the remaining two yellows over to the left. At the setup point, you should have 2 empty notches between each colored pair. Green is opposite green, yellow is opposite yellow, and whatever your 2 colors are, you should set it up in this same fashion. We are now ready to start our weaving. To begin, you can pick any color you want, but it will be important from this point on that you alternate colors. So I'm going to start with green. So I tell the kids, hold the disc in front of you with your left hand so that your chosen color, in my case green, is in the top bottom position or north-south. Then I tell the kids we're going to do 3 things that have to do with the word right. We're going to take our right hand and we're going to take the top right string and we're going to move it clockwise, tick, 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 tick. Feel free to make silly sound effects. And we're going to put it in the bottom right position. And I now have 3 greens at the bottom and 1 green left on top. And I tell them it kind of looks like a peace sign or a bird's footprint, whatever analogy you can make. So once again, my right hand took the top right string and rotated it to the bottom right position. Now we're going to switch hands and we're going to do 3 things that have to do with the word left. My left hand is going to take the bottom left string and move it to the top left position. And now I'm sort of back where I started. I will rotate the disc in either direction. You can actually go clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to repeat that with yellow. My right hand takes the top right string and moves it to the bottom right position. My left hand takes the lower left string and moves it to the upper left position. Now I rotate back to green. Top right goes to bottom right. Bottom left goes to top left. Turn to yellow. Top right goes to bottom right. Bottom left goes to top left. So as I've been doing that repeatedly, you can see that what happens is underneath the disc, the braid is starting to form above the knot. And as I continue weaving, these strings get shorter until eventually they will come up to the edge of the disc and your braid grows in length. Okay, now some common pitfalls to keep in mind. It's really important to keep the strings here detangled because they will start to wrap around and kind of make their own secondary braid. So you have to have the kids comb the strings a lot, or a good way to prevent that is as you put a string into a notch, get into the habit of running your hand down the string and it will pull it away from the others. Now the other thing that's very important is to always alternate your colors. And they will learn quickly how to tell what color they're on, but you can help your students by having them look at the center of the disc. Now in this case, I just did yellow, and I can tell that because the outer strings in this little center arrangement are yellow. Yellow is over 2 greens, and this yellow is over 2 greens. Also, the color that you're on tends to be in a tighter V, whereas the color you just did tends to be in a more kind of open parallel bar position. So watch what happens as I do green. I'm going to bring the green down and bring the bottom left green up. And now we can see as we look at the center that the green is on the top. So that is how you know what color you're on. You are on the underneath color when looking at the center arrangement. So another thing that sometimes happens is that the strings will sort of migrate towards each other, and rather than being in this nice plus sign, kind of don't look like an X, or they just don't look like that nice plus sign. So keep in mind that all of these notches are just placeholders. So if you get to a situation like this, you can simply take a pair and move it over to notches that return our positioning to that plus sign. It doesn't change anything about the weave, it just gets it more separated and easy to see what is happening. So your Kumihimo is done when your strings get so short that you can't really continue anymore. Sometimes some strings get shorter quicker than others. Now I have this nice long braid here and I'm ready to tie this off. So I simply unhook all the strings from my notches and I pull it off of the disc. Now this disc can be reused, not infinitely, but many, many times until it wears out. So have your students keep this someplace safe. And then to finish the braid, we're going to tie the same kind of knot we did at the beginning. Over, make a little loop and through, and kind of keep the knot loose until you position it to where you want it, which is where the braid ends. At this point, the kids can trim the ends, make this into a little bracelet, tie it onto their backpacks or water bottles, or just start their own little collection. Once you're a Kumihimo expert, you can increase your colors from 2 to anywhere up to 8 different colors. This is a 4-color Kumihimo, and it's the exact same setup and it's the exact same system. So the top right string goes to the bottom right position and the bottom left string goes to the top left position. But as you can see, the colors move around, and so it can be a little bit more complicated to tell where you are, which is why I always recommend starting with 2 colors, because in this one, yellow is always going to be with yellow and green is always going to be with green. But if you want to be ambitious and try something 4 colors or even 8 colors, just remember it's always top right to bottom right, bottom left to top left. The weaving is exactly the same. I have this chart set up in my classroom to show the kids some options of things they can do once they know what they're doing. So for example, for this pattern, it is 7 tan and 1 black, and the setup is just, the black is on its own somewhere, and that will give you this type of pattern. Here's an example of 4 colors, just like we started with the green and the yellow, but the setup is different. So rather than having the yellows across from each other and the purples across from each other, you set them up in that starting position, and that will result in a different type of pattern compared to the candy cane swirl sample that we did at the beginning. So ultimately, there are, infinite numbers of ways that you can make Kumihimo. Just always remember you need 8 strings total, and have fun.